Cool, okay. Hello everyone and welcome to the San Francisco Independent Short Film Festival. My name's Frankie Stewart, I'm from Festival Formula. And today we're going to be speaking to some of the filmmakers featured in Comedy Block 2. So I do just have a very generic question just to get the juices flowing to ask everyone as an icebreaker. As a child, what did you want to be when you grew up? So Bjorn, I'll start with you.
I wanted to be an illustrator and I was drawing a lot. So that was my dream until I was about 18 or something. Then I realized that I was more of a writer than an illustrator. So, and after that I started to make small movies and so on.
Wow, yeah. I'm sure that probably helps with the filmmaking. Roderick, what about you? What did you aspire to be?
I wanted to be a comedian when I was a kid because I always wanted to make people laugh, and that's always, I guess, been a lifelong ambition of mine. But then when I tried stand-up, I discovered I was just terrible at it, and it was nerve-wracking, and I was sweating buckets trying to make people laugh on stage. So I kind of fell into filmmaking by making people laugh the other way, and you know, started in directing funny commercials, and now here I am doing funny movies. And
yeah, you sort of took the nerves out of it, as it were.
Yes. Yeah. It's much better to be on the other, for me, to be on the other side of the camera rather than in front of it. It's a little nerve-wracking.
I hear that. No, I hear that. Christina, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Film director.
Boom, perfect. I was waiting for somebody to say that, and it makes total sense.
Then film director.
Okay.
Realized there was blood involved, and then film director.
Yeah, that's always something involved. Greg, how about you?
I bounced around a bit. So there was a time when I wanted to go into business, and there's also a time I wanted to go into theater. And for me, filmmaking was like very much a combination of those two things.
Totally. No, that makes complete sense. Shaheen, what about you? What did you want to be when you was younger?
I thought I would be an engineer just because everyone around me were turning into engineers.
Yeah.
But eventually I nudged my way slowly to product designer. Then I thought maybe animation would be a better fix, and slowly inched my way there. Like I used to do illustrations and animations earlier also, but it looked more promising later in life.
It's sort of artistic engineering in a way, isn't it? So that's great. And Preston, finally, what did you want to be before you grew up?
When I was really small, I'd say probably a major league pitcher.
Nice.
I grew up a White Sox fan. Growing up here in Chicago, so that was my go-to, like Jack McDowell and all of them. But once I got to Little League, they used to call me Wild Thing because I had no control whatsoever over the any ball I threw. So that quickly went out the window. But then when I got to high school, I played basketball varsity for 3 years, but I used to edit the warm-up tape. So whenever like 20 minutes before the game would start, I'd edit the warm-up tape together. So I'd take out all the foul language and whatnot because I went to a private Catholic school, so I didn't have that. If I did, I'd probably kicked off the team. And that really got me into the editing side. So I kind of really wanted to be an editor. So
that's really nice. I think usually there's not really a link. You know, people would just say astronaut, but it's quite nice how everyone has a link here. So let's talk films. Starting with you, Preston. I think Tinderbox, the setup is hilarious. I think at the start of the date, both characters have very different intentions, and you just have to sort of see how it plays out. And I think it plays out brilliantly, and I think that's thanks to the execution of the actors. So I suppose my first question to you has to be, where does this idea come from, sort of merging dating and DIY? Or is it just something that you thought would be a funny situation, a funny scenario?
Well, I'd have to give most of the credit, to be honest, to the writer-director Ricky Lark, who we met as I was temping at the time at a cable network, and he was my intern. And, you know, the generational gap that we had was interesting because, you know, I was talking about my dating life compared to his when he's like in the world of all these apps compared to me, where I'm still going to like bars or trying to talk to women at restaurants and whatnot.
Yeah.
And so like our friendship kind of gone from there. But then when he broke up with his, I think it was like a 3-4 year relationship with a woman he was seeing who was a little bit older than him. And so, but then when he got back into the dating world, he went into the apps, and it was just kind of crazy for him. He was like so removed from it for so long that he just didn't know what to do. So he would encounter some of these really interesting females on there, and then one of them did like literally just out there on the app say like, I just want somebody to come over and fix my bed, basically. so that sparked the idea, and then he kind of combined all the different women he's kind of dated, or at least went on dates with, into like that one scenario. And so you're like, what if they went on a second Tinder date, and if like he just came over and was manipulated into fixing her new bed up, and hopefully something would happen. So yeah.
That's hilarious. It's funny because I actually have a second question here, which was intended to be a joke, which was, is it based on personal experience? But that's actually quite funny.
Not mine.
Yeah.
But yes.
You're not lying. How much was improvised by the actors? Because I do think they play a very good part in the films, how it plays out. Do you know, was it quite strict to the script, or were they allowed to sort of improvise here and there?
They were I believe in the reshoots they were, which wasn't that much. It was some lighting issues we had on a couple of different shots. So that on the reshoots after we wrapped about 3-4 months later, we let them kind of loose. But then initially it was really trying to stick to the script as much as possible, because it was Ricky's first time writing and directing, and he just wanted it to kind of as close as possible to the script as it could be, versus, whenever if he does direct something, he kind of like lets it go. If he does write something, he's kind of lets go of it and let the director kind of take its way. But with this one, he was a lot more meticulous with it. But there was some parts where Dennis, the lead, did kind of feel a beat where he just wanted to bring out a little bit more comedy into it. So of course, like when the part where he takes off his shirt and all that. And then of course it was kind of that awkward movement or whatever, trying to cover his chest, not sure how to like all that. So he threw that out there a little bit. And then when she comes in and has him hold, she was initially supposed to put the wine down and then like give him his shirt, but she like hold this, like that was a little improvised by her. That was a really great beat. So yeah, there was little moments where they really popped for us in the editing room. We're really happy about that they did.
Yeah, definitely, and I think I noticed that, and that's why I asked the question. But that's testament again, I suppose, to Ricky's good writing. So yeah, brilliant. Moving on to Watchmaker at Time's End, Shaheen. I really like this short film. I thought it has a very fun sort of paradoxical premise, in the sense of what happens to a watchmaker when time is disrupted. And I think that, coupled with the style of the free open source animation and creating your own sound effects, it's just fantastic. So it's a really fun film. So I suppose the first question is, was it fun to make?
Yeah, it was quite fun to make, and it was actually a very long learning experience more than anything else. So when I was making itself, I tried to treat each shot as a completely different, like I was learning new and new techniques. That's why the style of the film also keeps changing throughout the film, because every time I'll be trying out this thing, it might not work, then I'll try something else. Because I didn't really know whether anyone else would be interested in watching the film while making it. So I was basically making it for myself. I didn't mind whatever direction it took. So it was sort of an experimental work in that sense. But luckily, people do enjoy watching it.
I think that adds to the style of the film, and the fact that, like you say, it's all free, open source animation. Is that something that you have experience with, or is it something that you wanted to do because of the style, or did you not really have a choice?
I learned it for this thing itself. Like just before the movie production started, I did lots of tiny animated loops with a friend to figure out how these styles can be evolved, how those programs can be used. And eventually whatever I learned from those, I implemented back into this film. So that's how it came about.
Nice. Okay. So you just was experimenting with it and then thought, let's go with it.
And it's more of the previous film I had tried to make was a very clean style. And by the end of it, I felt like, okay, I have done whatever I wanted to do with that. Then I wanted to return back to the sort of drawings I make in my own sketchbooks. So the closer I can get to that, the happier I'll be. So that's what I was trying with this.
So it's more authentic to
Yeah.
what you enjoy doing. Cool. And I have to ask as well, were there a lot of laughs in the recording studio? Because there are some really funny noises in that film.
Yeah. Actually, we made so much noise that the sound recording studio guy just left. He told, okay, I have press record. You guys go on with
Oh,
your
really?
stuff. I'm leaving. And then we just made lots of nonsense sounds, and whatever sounded the most stupidest, I put it back into this film. So that's the process of what gets into the film and what gets out.
Wow.
It
Okay.
was a
So
lot of info. Yeah.
brilliant. So will you be offering your services as voiceover artists anytime soon then?
I hope anyone needs it. And actually, my the voice actors, they are my friends, and they did a very cool job because the story is set in a very particular district in Kerala. So the sort of accent they use, the way they speak, is a very particular way that even if you hear that sort of a voice on a bus somewhere, you can identify that this person is from this particular place. So that sort of an authenticity those guys helped to bring to the film. Vishnu
I loved
Chandran
it.
and Kevin Ravindran. Yeah.
I loved it. I thought it was really fun. I think even though it's subtitled for myself, I think when you hear those human noises doing the sound effects, it sort of makes it relatable in a different sense, actually. So it's really, really well done. Talking about offering services, Roderick, let's move on to what do we do, where obviously the workers simply forget their services. I think it's funny. I think considering how short it is, you do a great job. I think if you were to put a camera in a lot of corporate offices and ask that question, what do you do? You might even get some very similar responses to the ones you see in your film. So I guess my question to you is, do you have a corporate background? Is that where the inspiration stems from? Or it's just that you think it's a funny idea? And oh, I think you're on mute, Roderick, sorry.
Sorry, there we go.
That's okay.
Yeah, I've throughout my career, I've directed a lot of commercials, and I've had to deal with in all over the world, but particularly with there's certain certain places where you have to deal with this corporate culture, and you know, you sit in these meetings and you look around at these people and you wonder, what does that guy do? What is he doing here? What is that person over there? They just sitting there taking notes, and so I got this idea from working with huge corporations through commercials. Like, what if somebody actually questioned their existence within this corporate culture? What would happen? You know, and could there just be this big domino effect? You know, of everybody, like nobody really actually knowing what they do in this corporation. And to me, I mean, it was my intention was twofold: is one, to make people laugh, of course, but also to provide some commentary on the current human condition and society and how humans fit in, particularly in this soulless corporate culture. You know, I wanted to make a strong commentary on that while making people laugh at the same time.
I absolutely love that. And I think from my experience, from my day job, we work with a lot of short films. We see some very good filmmakers that have to pay the bills by doing the corporate stuff. But then when they can go and make their creative stuff, some of the funny sort of digs that they can have at that corporate world, I think is fantastic, because like you say, you often see it for what it is, really, don't you? You can see it for what it is, and yeah, it's
important to question those things. You know, it's just rather than go with it. You know, question it.
No, for sure, and I think
robbing us of our humanity. I think.
Yeah, especially in agencies and everything where everyone has to justify their salary, and I think the tiniest changes for, you know, the smallest detail.
You've worked in advertising.
I haven't. I've just had many chats with people that have, and then they've come out of it.
Because I worked as a creative director in London for several years before I became a director, and it was just yeah. So that was.
So you know exactly.
Yeah.
Brilliant. No, that's really funny. Do any of the actors have a comedy background? Just because I thought that when I saw this cast, it was almost like I could listen to these in this environment for ages. That was just brilliant. Or is it just you got? You just
Yeah, well, I cast them. You know, I put everybody was went through an audition, and I purposely really worked with them with the script, and I wanted it to feel natural for each character. You know, and I wanted each character to be really distinct. You know, I wanted everybody to really come at it from a different point of view. You know, so you have all these flavors in the spectrum of corporate dronemanship, if that makes sense, you know.
I love that term. That's a great term. Yeah, okay, that's really cool. I think the reason I asked that question is just because, like I say, when you see the characters in that environment, you're being so short, I am left sort of thinking, oh, I'd love to see their next day at work, or I'd love to see them at after work drinks. Do you see what I mean? That sort of office vibe where it's like, yeah, that's really funny.
Yeah, well, it's funny. I shot a lot more footage, but I wanted to kind of make the point short and sweet, you know. So and I do think there's something in that notion of leaving your audience wanting more. You know what I mean? So when it's done, it's like, oh, I wanted to see more, you know. And I do think there's something to that.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's great. And the mission statement, is that it sounds like you've taken that from companies along the way, have you, to create your
I wrote that, yeah.
Yeah. Very nice, very nicely done.
I seem to remember being in going to a meeting somewhere at British Telecom and seeing some mission statement like that was just utter BS, you know, like what are you saying? I have no idea, you know, it makes no sense whatsoever. And I thought, well, that we've got to, you know, shine a spotlight on that, and just this how inane corporate culture is.
Yeah, no, well,
in addition to be dehumanizing, you know.
For sure, no, I'm all for that. So please do continue to shine a light on that, Roderick. That is great. So Greg and Christina, moving on to Witching, I think any film that starts with the Urban Dictionary definition of BDE has my attention. But I think you do a great job of keeping the audience's attention throughout the film. So my question that comes to me first is, was this short part of a bigger idea, or was it just, that is what it was meant to be and that's it, short film? Because I do feel as though you've built quite a strong introduction to the characters there.
So me and Greg, this film was our thesis film from AFI,
Okay.
Institute, and part of what we learn there is that we can make a feature film into a short film, because basically we are very much instructed into the kind of narrative that goes into feature films, and we go into a lot of script development that is similar to what you do for a feature film. So inevitably all of our thesis films kind of have that feeling where they're
right, I see.
larger, and especially if you want to implement the structure completely, you will have that feeling even more. And we are developing it as a series, actually.
Cool, very cool.
But it didn't start like that. When it started, we knew already that, oh, this feels like a feature, but we had to do a thesis that was short, and we kind of made it fit into that size. That's it.
Yeah, no, I think it's brilliant because you allow yourself to make jokes of the human race by having the witches and the other world. So that's great. I suppose it's a bit of a recurring theme in my questions, but where does your inspiration come from for this sort of style of film?
So I'm Greek, and I wrote the majority, and I had spent the summer prior to that year at one of my favorite islands in Greece. That is a very hippie kind of place. That's
Okay.
like full of mountains and rivers, and everyone is like playing like, oh, I'm a witch. Oh, I'm like, ooh, look at me, I'm a forest creature. Everyone is like playing with that
Very.
kind of, and psychedelics and all that thing. So that was kind of like the world was infused by that for me. And then also I was with a lot of girls, and there were a lot, like I heard people talking about the big dick energy and all that kind of thing. And I hadn't heard about it before, but also there was this whole conversation that was going on that year and the previous year that was very intense in terms of the Me Too movement. So I just felt like this idea just came to me, honestly. It's just like, okay, these witches are actually looking for the big dick energies, actually.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of took off to infusing it more and more with like own experiences, like me coming to LA and feeling like everyone looks kind of crazy. So that was kind of my inspiration for how the witch character sees the human characters. And just like throwing on like commentary about the whole conversation about feminism today and what it means and all the different layers that I think come into it.
Wow, I think that's a brilliant answer, by the way. I think, yeah, the fact that the inspiration sort of fell on your lap, but at the same time you've been able to mix your own personal experiences into this film that you wouldn't think could be inspired by personal experiences. But no, it's really funny. I think it works really well. There are some lines in there that really have had me cracking up. But yeah, opening with BDE, you can't go wrong. I also have to mention the production design, because I think that really stands out for me. Was that something that you were really passionate about, or was that a favor, or?
So I had watched The Mighty Boosh a couple months before, and I was so inspired by it. I think it's brilliant. I love the show, of course, but also I hadn't seen that been done before. The way they use production design and they make it all like theatrical, but also super full of texture and so realistic. So that was our biggest reference. Like, we just said Mighty Boosh the whole time we were shooting this film. We're like, Mighty Boosh, Mighty Boosh. And of course we didn't have that much money, so it was kind of, we're using the soundstage and just filling it with all of our ideas, and just bringing inspiration in terms of what kind of odd materials we can use to play off the forest, or to just dress up this witch environment, or to dress up like a hippie residence. And it was just playing a lot with color. And really trying to make this idea that this is a kind of a very theatrical environment that is kind of making fun of itself. And that you watch the film and it feels like a very realistic experience, but then you're actually thrown off. You're like, where am I? Like, that was my feeling when I was watching Mighty Boosh. It was like, feels real, like I'm in a real place, but then it's like, where am I? Because this is all like totally fake and theatrical. So that was, yeah.
No, definitely. I definitely feel that vibe, yeah. And I think you nailed it pretty well. And I think that's quite funny. You could say, make it more Mighty Boosh, make it more Mighty Boosh. Yeah, that's always a win. Cool. Okay, Bjorn, moving on to Dagny. I would say stylistically, the film stands out from the other live action films in the block. Especially obviously the scene where, well, majority of the film where they're on the bus, but it's shot and they're not actually on the bus. Is that right?
Yeah. First we shot it on the bus, but it's we felt it was better to shoot in a black box, because and we kept the bus. We got we hired this bus from the 70s. And we used the bus a lot, but when it comes to the state of mind of the main character, she's in a totally darkness. So
I see.
Yeah, so they are so locked in this, in their I don't know, in their conversation or lack of conversation, because it's a kind of a dialogue, but Dagny is not saying anything, but her body language is telling you something. And you have this bus driver who's talking all the time, and in one way or another, they're both locked inside kind of a darkness. Yeah. So yeah.
So it may, yeah, I get what you're saying. It sort of adds to that sort of claustrophobia of the conversation. Was that an idea that you had yourself, or did you see that somewhere else? What inspired you to take that sort of on board?
No, I haven't seen it. I'm still not sure if it's working that good or not, actually. But we ended up but I have the main scene is in the black box. I saw it on a theater.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was that's where the idea came up.
For sure, nice. And what about the sort of the top and the end shots of the sort of the really high bird's eye view? Was that something that's obviously again very stylish? Was that?
Yeah, you see the bus from a drone shot, and it's a kind of a spaceship in a way. It's just a white form taking her away. She's waiting for the bus, and the bus is kind of just a square.
Yeah, no,
above.
I really like it. I really like it.
In a way, yeah. And in the end, she's going to admit herself to a mental hospital. The time is in 1975. That's the year when the famous movie One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, I think. Yeah. It's called Gjøkeredet in Norwegian. And the bus driver has just seen the movie in the local theater, and he's so, because I was told about a woman who was like calling her doctor and say, "No, I'm having a breakdown. Can I please go to the hospital?" That was her life. She called her doctor, her local doctor, medical doctor, and in the 70s, the procedure was in the rural part of Norway that they put a straitjacket on you, even though you were really calm. They just put this jacket, and you had your suitcase, and they put you on the public bus. So you was just sitting there with all the people looking at you, and you couldn't explain anything. So that was standard procedure in a way. And when you arrived at the hospital, some nurses came to pick you and your suitcase up, and that's the last scene you also see from above.
Yeah, for sure it is. Yeah. Wow, that's wow.
But we tried with the straitjacket, but that was such a strong visual artifact in a way that it actually killed the story or her pain. So you just saw this person in a straitjacket. That was overkill in a way. So we instead we let the driver just talk and talk. You know, if you go take a taxi in the nighttime when you're just tired, and they start to talk about everything that you don't want to listen to.
Yeah, for sure. I think what you're saying is very true. I think if you add the straitjacket, that adds an element of physical stress, and I think you're already doing so much for the mental stress. So I can see why you say that's overkill. That's very interesting. What have the audience responses to your film been like so far?
Very good. They immediately understand it, and I think the reason why is that you have met some driver like that, talking, trying to be interested, trying to take care of you, and still you feel like you have to answer for all your life, and it's getting worse and worse during the story.
Completely relatable. Yeah, I know what you're saying. Perfect. Okay, guys, I'm going to go back around once more, and I have another question I want to ask. This one probably won't be as in depth, because it is a comedy block. I think it's only right for me to ask: have you noticed, and starting with you, Preston, have you noticed the audience if they have a favourite line, one that makes them like laugh the most, react the most, or a favourite part?
That's interesting. I think at least for guys, I've gotten this one back where the player Mike at the beginning is he drops he talks how like the red table talks are happening, like Will Smith and Jada Pinkett and all that back and forth. Yeah. And then he drops some vulgarity about Will Smith, and then of course Dennis, our actor, is like, "Wait, Will Smith said fucking?" And it was like something that Fresh Prince of Bel-Air would never say.
Yeah. No,
so everybody kind of really attached that. The guys did for sure, and then for the girls, it's just that one moment on the bed when they're kind of wrestling, and she lets out just the tiniest little fart. And it's just such an awkward beat and moment for both of them. And for girls are like mortified because they never want to like reveal that to their boyfriend or whatever. So it's like they got that joke. They really like that moment. Yeah. So so both sides, male and female, they definitely attach to those.
So there's a difference, which makes sense. I think for me, I actually have to say the bit where I really did laugh out loud was where he asks her why she wants a bookshelf, and she just goes, for books.
Right, exactly. Yeah, like duh. Like what else would it be for?
That bit. Cool. Shaheen, what about you? Do you find that that audiences laugh at a particular point, or not quite, or?
We actually did lots of screenings all around India. So in India, there are lots of languages. So I wasn't really sure whether they would get all these Malayalam dialogues. But yeah, people did react properly. And towards the end, there is this dialogue, Pandaram, Pandaram, which means damn it. But somehow that caught on to people who would use it. And it was strange to hear different people speaking in my mother tongue. That was quite nice.
I see. So it's relatable in that sort of sense. Yeah. Funny. Roderick, how about you? Obviously, I appreciate your films much shorter in a different style. Do you notice audiences laughing at a particular point, or not really? You're on mute again. Sorry, Roderick.
Sorry. Okay, there we go. Yeah, a couple of places, like the lady who was there on the typewriter, and she asks, how do I get email on this, and I think that seems to be one that everybody laughs at. Yeah. And also coming back, when everybody, the very camp guy saying, hey, I know, let's call Mr. Maxim in management, he'll have the answer, thinking that the management somehow knows everything, and they call him, and of course he has no answer at all. He's as befuddled as everyone else about what they do as a corporation. And then when they come back, you go through the credits, and you sit through the credits and the song is asking, what do we do? And then you come back to Mr. Maxim again, just staring off, just completely perplexed. Like, he's been shaken to the core about his existence, because it's like, oh my gosh, nobody's ever asked me what I actually do. So
exactly. No, that is funny. And I think the song, actually, it's interesting you mentioned that, because I really like that. I found my head bopping to that at the end. That was really funny.
Yeah, that's a London composer did that. Yeah, Pete Diggins. Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, that's a really nice touch. I always appreciate good credit music. I think Christine, Witchin, you have quite a cool tune at the end as well. Is that right? Am I remembering that?
It's like this techno, like electronic music beat.
Yeah. I think anything that comes in with a sort of a punch is just wicked. How about you guys? Have you found the audience laughs at a particular line?
Greg, which
I think there's the visual gag at the end of the Pan Junior scene that I think really gets the big laugh for us.
The one.
Talk about that.
Yeah, that's the one. I'd have to say that, or the first time the BDE is mentioned, I think that's really funny. Mm-hmm. Or when the guy outside the techno party introduces himself as Prince Fuckboy, that was probably my favorite. So,
yay!
Congrats on that. Cool. Okay, guys. Well, I'm going to wrap it up there. It's been a pleasure talking to you. I really, really, really enjoyed watching The Block as a whole. I want to thank you for making those films, because they definitely made me laugh, and I'm sure they're putting smiles on lots of people's faces across the festival. So again, I want to thank the audience for watching, and we hope that you tune in on what else the festival has to offer. For now, I'm going to love you and leave you and say thank you so much.
I'm going to watch everybody's films, by the way. I'm so intrigued.
Cool. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.